Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Be Not Afraid, the podcast, and our Saturday morning book club. We may have a few more people joining us. A few people, unfortunately, had to cancel, but that is the way. That's the way summer goes. Christina, I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I hope my mic is on.
Yes, it is. You sound great. So I
Thank
do want to remove this little thing and get a different picture going on here. Let's see. Sorry about
you.
that. We'll be there in a moment. Just a little bit better a picture. I don't know why it doesn't give me a screen. That's what I'm looking for. Nope, that's still not what I'm looking for. Eventually, I'm going to find what I'm looking for. I just have this empty screen here.
It's all
Okay.
good.
Well, anyways, so this morning we will be talking about that'll work. This
Ta-da!
morning once I share the screen, it'll be a lot better. But this morning we are going to be talking about The Devil in Karl Marx book club. Chapters 4 through 6. Now, last week with Brooke, we spoke about the first few chapters. We talked about who Marx was, and unfortunately, so many people do not get a good intro on who Karl Marx was, the real person, which I love that Engels calls him the monster in these next few chapters.
If people didn't do anything else, read the first 3 chapters.
Right.
Like
Right.
if nothing else, if you choose to do nothing else, because this is not a beach read, it's heavily academic. It has big language, it has an expansive vocabulary. If you do nothing else, read chapters 1 through 3.
Right.
Because that alone will change your opinion on the Marxism, communism manifesto, the motivation through culture and those things, because it's very eye-opening.
100%. And so what we're going to do today, so I just want to review just a tiny bit, like maybe 3 minutes on who Marx was. I'm going to pull this one instead. So that'll give us a little bit more with a little bit more. There we go. Okay. Perfect. So Karl Marx, everybody calls him an economist, but the reality is that if that's what he was, then he was probably the worst in the world. Because he really did mooch off of people. Yes, he did some work as a writer, but he was one of those people who didn't have that second job. You know, a lot of times when people go into the arts, they say, well, make sure you have a backup plan. He did not have a backup plan.
Yep.
His backup plan was to guilt his family, especially his mother and father, sometimes relatives. He left his family starving, and he was a very resentful person. And that's just the start of who this man was.
Yeah.
Now, Engels changes things. Engels comes into his life and he does become his cash cow.
Yeah.
But before...
And even he becomes resentful.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I just thought this was so... I really want to stick with kind of the annotations in the book and what's... you know, I want to stick to the source material. But I think that the most relevant thing that we're going to talk about, and this is heavy, okay, especially chapter 5, it's really quite heavy. But the most important thing is that he deconstructed his faith. That's who Engels was. Engels was born into a Christian family. I believe his father was a minister. So he's born into this Christian family. He is praying that he is not lost. And he asks for help to come into his life. And unfortunately, before help comes into his life, Marx comes into his life. So that's where we get this monster of 10,000 devils. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to see, I haven't gotten any clicks on yet. I know that I've got one person trying to get in. But I'm going to share my screen. And we'll just start going with it. I don't know if you have any annotations in the book. I have quite a few.
So I have a few. I was really shocked as we went through chapter 5.
Okay, yeah.
But absolutely, I'm loving what you've got here. In fact, I'm going to make it a little bigger.
Let me pull up. I'm just going to start with, I'm going to start just a little bit with who he was. So I pray every day, indeed almost all day, for truth, Engels would write. And I've done so ever since I began to doubt. Like many youth, he had his questions and he needed peers who were good men who would help him to help guide him to the right, not to the wrong, to truth, not to evil. Unfortunately, men like Karl Marx entered instead. And I think that this is so interesting because so many, now we're not Catholics, and this
No.
book is definitely written as a Catholic. It's written from a man who's a Catholic apologist. Um, but today, so many people are being told, reconsider your faith. Think about the parts of it that are, quote, colonization.
Yeah.
And the question that you need to ask yourself, if this is something that you decide to do, is what's the alternative? Is it indeed better? As we go through Engels' life, you tell me. You can feel free to write in the comments, or just think for yourself. Are the outcomes for his life better when he walks away from his faith? So, from his atheist German friends, Engels wryly recorded that his new infatuation with communism had reawakened all the religious fanaticism of my old man. So, his parents start to worry about him. This is a man who he does have a level of affluence, and he's kind of throwing it away to only talk about negative things. The malice of the Christian hunt, complete with its beaters on my soul. He's talking about people coming and trying to save him, and at this point, he's done. He's walked away from all of that. Let's see. I think this is part of his. So he talks about reckless rage, a black man from Trier, a remarkable monster. He neither walks nor hops, but springs up on his heels and stretches his arms into the air in anger, as though his wrath would seize at once. So listen to that. When you're talking about Marx, you're constantly talking about anger and rage.
Yes.
The mighty canopy of heaven and tear it down with clenched and threatening fist. He rages without rest, as though 10,000 devils had seized him by the hair. Again, those words. He's raging without rest. Doesn't that seem relevant today? I mean, go ahead.
I would argue that it does. If we look at those who subscribe to this ideology, they do rage without rest, and they are quick to offense.
Yes.
They're angry and will find something to be angry about in everything.
Yes.
Not justifiable things. I mean, the leaves could fall to the ground and they would find a reason to post some quippy TikTok video about how it makes them angry. And the idea that the rage goes on without rest is so true. But yes, that does happen today.
Yeah. And I mean, that is the pedagogy of Marx, right? That is, I've got another person jumping in. So let me just add. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No worries. To me, this is so early on a Saturday morning. So
I was up and trying to be here, but I have a antagonistic relationship with technology, and my computer was not cooperating.
Well, I don't know if you've been able to hear where we've gotten through.
Yeah,
so far.
I listened along.
Okay, so that pedagogy of rage, that constant I'm looking for anger in absolutely everything. This is something that I think the culture has picked up. And not only has the culture picked up, but Robert, you were in counseling and you're a teacher. Christina, you're a teacher. these, I mean, this is literally being taught as fundamentally something that we need to be constantly talking about, or leaning the kids towards. When they say critical thinking, they no longer mean critical thinking. They mean looking for things to criticize.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a great way of saying it. And not just children, teachers too.
Right.
Yes.
Teachers are most definitely taught to look for weaknesses in their peers, the microaggressions, the macroaggressions, the things on the walls, the colors that offend certain cultures. I mean, they're constantly taught to look for. I mean, if you want a profession where you are coached to walk on eggshells and constantly question your efficacy and your integrity, become an educator.
Right. Or mental health, or a counselor.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. Or any kind of person in advocacy today. That's what they're leaning towards.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing that we find out as we keep going through this, and I do want to get past Engels, but that is ultimately, also a pastor. Today, a lot of theologians are told you have to look through this worldview, right? So it kind of, I don't know. It's like it never stops.
Well, if I could comment on that, that's not just pastor to pastor. There are seminaries that subscribe to and teach through the Marxist lens. And they're overt about it. They don't even hide themselves. The SBC passed multiple policies to adopt that framework for their entire system of not just teaching preachers, but preaching to the body itself, which is anti-biblical, but yet it's still happening.
Yeah. And again, you guys, this is over 100 years old that this was starting. So I'm just trying to find which ones. I don't know if you guys have any annotations specifically. I don't want to take anything that I want to make sure I hit anything that you have. But like Marx, Engels' ideological preferences were extensions of his personal preferences. So basically, when you drop God, for these people, they kind of become a god. In his writings and his description of the communist paradise, Engels showed his preferences for premarital sex, non-committed relationships, and easy divorce. Again, just as relevant today. What sort of thoughts? Engels reiterated a position in the book that both he and Marx had previously advanced, namely that a mother's housework was yet another private thing that the communist state should seize, to be replaced by collective labor managed by the state. Right now, in New York, they're saying, parents need a break. Let the state watch your kids. And
they're very quickly learning what free costs.
Right. Yeah. Except they haven't gotten the cost yet. So right now they're praising it. Oh, this is so wonderful. We're getting a break. How generous our big, parent state. And I love that's what you said as we move into what it's really going to cost.
Yeah.
Private housework should be nationalized, with mothers, instead of being corralled into the being corralled into the fields and factories to do more meaningful work. Housework, from cooking to cleaning, would be a government industry, as would childcare. So again, we're already there. We're there right now, and people are praising it. Now, what is the cost? And here's where we go into the heavy chapter. Go ahead. Yes.
He says more meaningful work. What could be more meaningful than taking care of kids and family?
Right.
Like, go work in a factory. That's more meaningful.
Right. And I've done both.
Yeah.
And honestly, what is more impactful?
Well, this ties into how, if you like, when you think of communists as like they're against capital, they hate money, that sort of thing, but that's the only thing they care about. They're like, what matters is production. What matters is material things. And so even if you say you get rid of money or whatever, which, no one's ever gotten to that point, but they're still only concerned with supposedly with exact material allotment of goods. They're obsessed with capital and money and whatnot. And so it makes sense that they would be like, well, the highest thing, the most important thing would be to work in a factory to produce stuff for people, so that people can have material things. That's actually obviously it's materialist because they're materialist atheists, but it's very clear that that's the highest thing they see. And so it's like, well, kids are unimportant, families unimportant. We need to concentrate on, communists worship money far more than most people in a capitalist society do. Not that there aren't capitalists who are greedy and worship money, but communists are obsessed with money and worship money.
Yeah. That's all Marx was ever doing. From what I see, he was either venting and screaming about how unfair life was, or he was begging for money all the time. So now here's the question. And I highly recommend that people pick up this book. You can pick it up on Kindle. You can pick it up on Audible. I have it on both. But just highlighting what's pertinent. That's all that I did. I only highlighted the things, and I found that I highlighted almost every page of this book. But so these people who say that they want peace, they want kindness, they want inclusion, they want everyone to be equal, I think one word that we need to remember is everyone. It's extremely totalitarian. And as we move into the next chapter and start talking about what the Bolsheviks wanted, I think the primary thing, and I actually love the guests that I have today because we're all coming from a Christian worldview. And this totalitarianism, when Marx says he hated God, it wasn't a joke. This is a man who took every opportunity to mock God, but who also wanted to stamp out religion. And that's what we're going to see in these next few chapters. So,
well, if I could, Carrie, it struck me as incredibly just stupid is the only word I can come up with, that he sought to mock God, and in the next breath would claim that there was no God in existence.
Right.
Then he would seek to do what he referred to as devilish things.
Yeah.
And what really is something that people have to have as an oh duh moment is the acknowledgement of Satan is the acknowledgement of God.
Right.
You have to realize the treason of the intellectual that really was Karl Marx, because his own thought process did not bear out logically.
No. Like I said last week, I wonder if these people are following a genuine madman.
Oh, I don't think he was. I don't think he was sane. I think he was mentally ill, and I think you could see that in the writings where it talked about his refusal to bathe, the way he treated his family. He ended up with boils all over his body and was in extreme pain.
Yep.
And he chose to live that way. It was a choice. And so I'll let you guys comment. I just think it's the ultimate act of stupidity to claim there is no God, yet write day after day after day, mocking God, and I'm angry at God, but there is not one.
Right.
The man didn't reconcile his own thoughts in his own mind. And then he pushed that upon people who didn't have the critical thinking to discern that he was not firing on all cylinders.
I love that you said that he pushed that, because what I constantly see is the projection.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that people are accused of being, he is himself. So I found that very interesting. And so as we go into the Bolshevik, what struck out to you? And then I'll just try to find the quotes that kind of. Robert, were you able to read any of it?
No, I didn't. But I was thinking about, on your last video, I commented that passage from Timothy think it was 2 Timothy. He
Yeah.
said, if a man won't work to feed his household, then he has no part with us. He's not one of us.
Yeah.
And this passage in particular, when I was younger and first getting into the realms of religion and being exposed to Christianity, I could have been, I was aware of the claim that Christians, Jesus was socialist, Jesus was communist, the early Christians were, and like that was somewhat convincing to me that it seemed plausible.
Okay.
And there's ways I could see someone being like, okay, but that one passage sticks out also in the Didache, the early teachings of the first church fathers. They talk about things that sort of go against that, and so it has to come in a certain context. But one thing I realized was that throughout the whole Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, it's constantly described that like a hellish state, a terrible oppressive state. When Israel's in a bad place, they describe it over and over again as not getting the fruits of your work. You go out and work and you don't receive the benefit. Mm-hmm. That is a recurrent refrain of, this is not the good place. This is terrible. This is oppression. This is hell on earth. This is the life that you absolutely do not want, is to go out and put in your effort and not get the return on it. And then the promised land is the place where you go and you put in work and your work is incredibly efficient and productive and everything goes well and you get the bounty and returns from that. And so that comes up so much, and just on that alone, that blows communism out of the water and shows it for what it is.
Well, work is essential to purpose, I think. And I think that when we have no work, and that doesn't mean, work that you're getting necessarily paid for. Like, some of the most important work, as we've already discussed, is the work of rearing kids. So, but it gives you purpose at the end of your day. I think one thing is that, yes, Marx was mad. Engels was obviously depressed. And a lot of times these bad ideas seem to go to people who are already depressed. Well, you're depressed because all of these outside reasons. And I think that that's why so many people, first off, I think that that's why, and this is just my assumption, but I think that that's why we needed to, quote unquote, normalize mental health, to get as many people to be as fragile as possible so that they would accept bad ideas. And when I say bad ideas, we're going to go into who the Bolsheviks were. Now, I love that you said that comment about that people say that Christ was a socialist, and I see it all the time. I see memes of it. Jesus would be a Democrat socialist if you're not compassionate about this, blah blah blah. But let's just be real. This is what they say. Okay, a fight to the death must be declared upon religion, asserted Nikolai Bukharin, founding editor of Pravda and one of Lenin and Stalin's leading lieutenants. Now, most people, when they talk about Marxism, they're talking about Marxist-Leninism. Mm-hmm. They don't know that, and they don't say it. So, and then I think another thing that's important to understand in this whole thing is that their words, not mine, they use words like dupes and suckers and fellow travelers. So there are people who absolutely know, and then there are people who don't know but push things along because it sounds good, especially because it feels good. Mm-hmm. But here's the reality that they're not telling. They don't tell you when they deconstruct. Take religion to the tip, at the tip of a bayonet. They aren't joking here.
And if you read chapter 5, it goes on to very explain that there is no joke.
Go ahead and expand there. Yeah.
Well, I think when you said what stood out to you, what stood out to me, especially in the context of this conversation, is that if Marx wanted to wail on religion, and he thought, oh, this is as harsh as I could be, he had nothing on the Bolsheviks.
Right.
Like, the Bolsheviks took that to a level that I just stopped reading and turned pages. I knew, I've read the Gulag.
Yeah.
Many people have, but so many of those documented things, they are utterly horrendous. And we look at like the human rights codes, and even the laws, the international laws against torture, even for in wartime and etc. These people went so far beyond World War II.
Yeah.
They went so far beyond World War I. The Bolsheviks were probably, if not the worst, were vying for first place of the most evil people you could possibly be in world history. It is just,
and they say
beyond.
Why.
Yeah, they do say.
They're like, there is no God, so I can do anything I want. And they do.
And they believed that there was no consequence to their action, not in this life or in others, because as much as they hated religion, they practiced a religion.
Oh, yes.
And I think that when people start to debate faith and religion, they really need to look up like the overarching word. What does it mean to have a worldview? What does it mean to have a faith? What does it mean to have a religion? Because Marxism is a religion, communism is a religion, and they are almost one and the same. They're so close, they're practically indiscernible. But it is all a religion.
So let's just, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Please go ahead.
One of the most brutally restricted rights by communist government was and remains the freedom to worship, which communists always and everywhere have attacked with a wild fervor and devotion. In a sense, it is strange that atheistic communists felt so morally threatened by people believing in something they insisted did not exist. And that really does become the big issue, that these people who think something doesn't exist can't just let you be alone to worship as you see fit. And they didn't. So they put Christians in mental institutions. They took away their children and left them as orphans. And the brutality is so extensive that I hesitate to share much of it.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Yes.
I remember in the Gulag, he talks about how, at least at times, like you were free to believe in a God, you were free to have your religion, but you couldn't. You could pray, but you couldn't let other people know you were praying, which is something going on in England today.
Yeah.
You can believe your religion, but you can't pass it on to your kids. You can't teach your kids your religion. And so then it's like, well, and that's connection to what you guys are saying. What is a religion? This is your highest value set.
Right.
So the idea that you cannot pass on your highest, most important values is the same thing as saying you cannot have those values. Because you're putting those at odds.
Well, even like their godparents and their traditional, and here's one of the things that they did that I think is extremely relevant today. They went and first they gutted churches, burned them down, tortured priests and nuns. They put nuns into jail cells with prostitutes so that they would be exposed to everything. They did all of this terrible stuff. And reality is that the underground church grew. So after all of this, after chapter 5, which is just a nightmare, it is literally a nightmare. After chapter 5, they went and they infiltrated the church softly.
Yeah.
So they went through their scriptures and they cut out things like there's a scripture that says, "Be wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove." And they fundamentally changed it Remember those words, fundamentally changed, because we will hear that a lot moving forward. They changed it to saying, be gentle as a dove, gentle as a dove, gentle as a dove. In other words, forget the wise as a servant part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what their churches became. So a baby's blessing or finding godparents, the godparents had to commit that they would raise the children allegiant to the state.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because they had to be a counterfeit. So belief in God stood in the way of totalitarian desire to transform human nature. And I laugh at that again because many politicians use the words, we want to fundamentally transform.
Yeah.
So God was the competitor to communist control of the body, mind, spirit of man that Marx and Lenin wanted to redefine in their own image.
Did you ever find it odd that as you read their manifestos, if you will, their writings, the writings of Stalin and Lenin, they all plagiarize scripture?
I don't find it odd because it was always their intent. I mean, when Marx was first writing, we talked about this last week, but when Marx was first writing, Engels goes to him and goes, well, let's rethink that. Let's not call it this because I think it was catechism or something like that. And they're like, we need a new word for it. Let's call it manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wanted to dupe people.
Mm-hmm.
That was always the intention. These people, they follow the father of lies. They have no issue. They have no compunction with lying.
Well, and what is the devil's approach to just say not, something completely opposite scripture? No, he takes scripture in the wrong way, right? That's the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness is the devil's quoting from scripture in order to make his point.
Yeah. Look at this. Ironically, anyone familiar with or who spent time with the Communist Party will attest that it arrogantly and proudly atheist members treated communism like a faith. To say that one had seen the light is a poor description of the mental rapture which only the convert to communism knows. The new light seems to pour from all directions across the skull. The whole universe falls into a pattern like a stray pieces of a jigsaw puzzle assembled by magic at one stroke. There is now an answer to every question. That answer is grievance.
Mm-hmm.
Doubts and conflicts are a matter of a tortured past. Nothing henceforth can describe or can disturb the convert's inner peace and serenity. That, I would say, is a lie. I have not, and I guess this is my opinion, but I have not seen very many people who fall to Marxism as peaceful or serene.
Oh, no.
I don't know, maybe
but
you have.
I think they do believe that in their end time utopia, that they will be that. I think there's a genuine belief that this utopia that they think is coming will result in peace and serenity. And we all know that it results in chaos and death.
Well,
Yeah,
I
mean,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
Go ahead.
I think the reason why they're so angry, antagonistic, etc., that's what it's saying is like they have this inner certainty that promises them peace, right? So as long as things conform to the way they want them to be, the way they think they are, then they would be at peace because they have the answer. They know what's going on. Everything's in control. They're moving in the right direction. So that does bring peace. But when people poke at that, when people challenge that, when people don't agree and aren't on the same page, those people are now threats to that peace. So they attack. So they're constantly attacking the things that are threatening their understanding. So technically they think they have a peace that's inside and they're defending that peace. And I think that's the claim that's being made.
Would you call it infantilized peace, though, because you can't just be at peace in hard times. You are only at peace when things are going your way. It seems to me like a toddler.
Right. It's a fragile peace. It's not a true peace, but it's the promise and the hope that that they're clinging on to that drives them to be so outwardly angry.
So clearly, the party is always right. We can only be right with and by the party, for history has provided no other way of being right. This is why it's totalitarian. There's no other option. I think another thing that I keep hearing about is pluralism. And you can't have pluralism with totalitarianism. And it's the same people. They're the people who are constantly saying we should, we can all live together. We can invite, this religion that has nothing to do nothing to do with peace and tolerance. We can live side by side because pluralism is a good thing. And you go, but if you have nothing in common, then where in the world do you find that common ground? And you don't. And it's an interesting thing to watch these two things merge. So the leadership of the Communist Party is always therefore right, since they alone know what is good for society.
Well, pluralism, just to finish on that, pluralism is just having no standards, right? You just being tolerant for tolerance sake.
So would you say pluralism and moral relativism are the same?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way that it seems to be presented, we have a lot of different kinds of groups out here that are constantly pushing for pluralism. And their view is that, specifically, radical Islam and democratic socialism are hand in hand, and you shouldn't object to this because, and nobody's going to say that it's about having no standards, especially not in a highly religious state.
Right. The selling tagline is the idea that, we're being so tolerant, we're being so open, we're allowing the freedom of people to disagree and have freedom of consciousness. That's how it's sold. It's like you want to be so open and so tolerant that that you allow the undermining and disruption of your own government. It's like, okay, what that really is just you have no standards and no self-defense, just like you were talking about with taking away the wise as the serpent part. Just calm down. Just be kind. Just be open.
Yes. To absolutely everything.
Right. Yeah.
So the leadership of the Communist Party is therefore always right, since they alone knew what was good for society, and since their word was absolute, immutable, infallible, secure, and unchallengeable. The Soviet leadership was prepared to recognize no restrictions, either God or man, on the character of their methods. Zero restrictions. Again, utter totalitarianism.
And that reminds me of the story in the Gulag where there's a mother who gets picked up and arrested for whatever reason, and her daughter writes her and says, mother, I can't believe they took you. I'm poised to join whatever the youth organization is, or whatever the ComSol, I forget what it is, join the local party organization. And she says, just tell me that you're innocent and that it was wrong, and I won't join. But if you tell me you're guilty, I'll never talk to you again. Yeah. And then her mother writes her back and says, join the party.
Wow.
So she told her daughter to disown her and go with the party, even though she was unjustly arrested by the party and put in jail.
Well, but we know what the daughter would have faced. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people wrestle with, is that they think, I'll keep my head down, my mouth closed to protect my children. but then their children have no choice but to live in this kind of literal hell on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say one thing that's in chapter 5, because it pertains to what they did to the youth, these youth who were taught in their homes to protect their faith. When they go into the seminary, when they're going into ministry, they are baptized every single day in urine, in buckets of urine.
Well, and they're almost drowned in it.
Some of them are drowned in it. Yes.
Yeah.
There's far more much more worse than that in this chapter.
Oh,
but that is one thing that happens, and it's an everyday thing. I mean, stamping out religion is their practice.
mm-hmm.
It is their religion. It is like a personal crusade. And there's no reason to believe that wouldn't happen again.
Well, I think part of the reason we can believe it will happen again is it's recycled itself over and over and over throughout history. Every time we see a massive world crisis, the Bolshevik Revolution, what happened during Nazi Germany, what happened in Mao's China, what has happened across the globe in communist pockets from Cuba to other places, it recycles itself. The idea that this is not going to happen again and is absurd. And people will say, well, communism just hasn't been done right yet.
Yeah.
Well,
so go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I think it's funny because they talk about Marxist policies or communist policies. You want to see how those play out? Look at the Bolshevik Revolution.
You're right.
Like, that is, you want to see how those policies play out to their logical conclusion. The Bolshevik Revolution is one of the purest examples. And Mao's China is another extraordinary example. And we try to play it off as if we could do it better.
Right.
Or we could do it in a more humane way. Well,
I love that you said better, though, because that's what we constantly hear. That's the new language. Everything's better, 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 better. Right?
Yeah, we can disagree better than the Bolsheviks.
Right.
We can disagree better than Mao. We can disagree better than Adolf Hitler.
Right.
I'm going to help you out with not a thing. This always has the same end. And it's not good.
It's based on utter arrogance,
mm-hmm.
and lack of humility. Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately it comes down to the very beginning of every time I would read this, I just think Eve in the garden being told, you can be as God. Mm-hmm. And that's what I see over and over with this stuff, is that they're so angry that they can't be this God that they were taught to believe in. And they have so much anger about that. And I don't think that's any different than today. These mm-hmm. people really, truly feel that that resentment is what leads them. So let me keep going. And yet Lenin affirmed Marx's sentiment that communism, hear this, people, because again, you will see Jesus was a communist. Jesus was a socialist, and his hippie long hair and his sandals and whatever else. Mm-hmm. But listen, Lenin affirmed Marx's sentiment that communism begins where atheism begins. Mm-hmm. He considered atheism as a natural and inseparable part of Marxism. But yet we have it in our churches. Some people boldly have it in their churches. I have traveled and seen giant BLM signs on the outsides of churches. Okay, so some people boldly have it in their churches. Other people just have the cowardice mm-hmm. Of the theory and practice. And that cowardice, right? The cowardice comes back to, and I don't blame this woman, because unfortunately, when we don't stand, when it's a little bit inconvenient, mm-hmm. we pave the way for more of this. So that mother who was like, I don't want you to go through what I'm going through, join the party, disown me. Yeah, of course. Who would want to see their child baptized in urine? So, of the theory and practice of scientific socialism, religion is the opium for the people, said Lenin, echoing Marx. Religion is a sort of spiritual booze. Okay, but what about this? We're never supposed to ask what about the other side of it? Where our education is one-sided. Our education is everything they said and nothing that they did. So everyone must be absolutely free to be an atheist, which every socialist is as a rule. But yet we've got pastors explaining why socialism is good. We've got popes explaining today why socialism is a good thing. Can you close the door? Oh, sorry. Okay, bye. Bye. Okay, sorry, guys. Okay.
I don't know what is coming to mind at the moment. I don't know if you are aware of this person. His name is, or his YouTube name is Redeemed Zoomer.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he does. He's young and does a lot of religious videos, but and he's all about recapturing the Presbyterian Church from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of his most recent videos was a history of liberal Christianity. And if you sort of overlay the historical events here, you're looking at a time where Europe was just covered in liberal Christianity. And what that basically meant was a hollow Christianity. So yes. There were so many people all over the place who it was really easy to convince, oh, well, Christianity is just like a thing that makes us do good things. It was hollowed out and taken into such a watered down version that people across Europe at the time that Marx was coming up, the claim that, oh, religion is just this stupid story that the stupid people need.
Yeah.
And we who are smarter see through it. Well, the reason why, or a big reason why I would say that flew and that made sense to people is because the broad saturating presence of Christianity there was liberal Christianity, which is a weak, anemic, hollowed out Christianity. So
right. And that's 100% not biblical. Mm-hmm. So many churches are becoming nothing but social clubs. Mm-hmm. And it's just, that's Christ says, if any man comes after me, he must deny himself. Mm-hmm. And that's the last thing that we're being taught in many of our churches today to do is to deny ourselves. And again, I can completely see why. And also, there was always a truth married to a lie in these situations because it was never good. It wasn't like the quote, make America great again thing where it was pretty good in the 80s. It wasn't good in Russia. So I can see how they played into their resentment because it was really bad. I mean, they would do things like bring their animals into the house at night to keep them warm. So socialism was a contradiction in terms and felt very strongly that Christians have no more right to label socialism with a limiting adjective of their, I don't even know, shibboleth, yeah. Shibboleth, okay. Mm-hmm. Then he should dream of speaking of atheistic socialism. Again, the fact that there are, quote, Christian socialists is an oxymoron. And he goes through this and explains, we demand that religion be held a private affair so far as the state can be concerned. You hear a lot of socialists today say separation of church and state, separation of church and state. But it's not really what they necessarily mean.
Well, I grew up outside the church and mostly atheist or agnostic. And I had this idea of like, well, you should you shouldn't vote on your religion, right?
You shouldn't vote your values.
Right. No, that's exactly right. And it makes no sense now that I actually understand what anything means. But it's like I mean, basically that claim is you need to pretend that you see the world the way I do,
Yes.
and vote like I would. It's like, no, I don't. But yeah,
religion's supposed to be secondary, or like something that you put up on a shelf, right? It's decorative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way that it's acceptable, is if it is something that doesn't dominate the way you see the world.
Right. Well, you mentioned the foundation of arrogance earlier, and that was kind of my place where I was like, I mean, I wouldn't have said it in these words, but basically my thought was like, I know and believe that this is stupid, and probably most of the religious people know and believe it's stupid. They're just for some reason pretending to believe it. Like, I couldn't understand that they actually believed it. You know, it was like everybody knows this is a lie, but some people are just clinging to it for no reason. You know, so just this completely insular, and I mean, it's built on arrogance. It's just, I know the reality, and the reality's obvious, and everybody should just get on board with my worldview.
And isn't that interesting? Because that's the exact same thing on the other side. Like, I am certain that the majority of people know that they are lying when they say a male is a female. I'm certain that they know it, but it's the exact same thing. They're these same people who are holding up signs saying protect this group of people are also yelling at you for believing in, quote, Sky Daddy. And you just, there's no desire for tolerance. And so let me get this. We demand that religion be held a private affair so far as state is concerned, but by no means can we consider religion a private affair so far as the party is concerned. We demand complete disestablishment of the state so as to be able to combat the religious fog. We demand our association, the Russian Social Democratic Local Party. Social Democrats has been used for 100 years. Do not believe this is new.
Yeah, when democratic socialism
we're
is not a new
Democrats, not communists.
I think that, you know, I was once taught you should know what you believe and why you believe it, whether that be your faith. And I believe it's in 2 Peter, could be wrong, but I believe it's in 2 Peter where it says, always be prepared to have a defense of your faith, right? Yeah. And what really kills me is if you ask people who subscribe to this ideology to tell you where it comes from, they can't do it.
Yeah.
It's a very surface level faith, which if you think about the Christian tradition, for example, it is a lot easier to break a young Christian than it is to break a young Muslim, because a young Muslim can recite the Quran by the age of 5, 7, etc. They've memorized it. They're committed to it. They've done that. Christians typically don't do the same work with their own children. And yet people who subscribe to this ideology in democratic socialism, it's so easy to disprove their thoughts and their ideas, yet they hold to them with such fervor. And
religious
the history,
devotion.
The history.
Religious devotion to being anti-religious.
Yes, very much so. And it, you know, it's not new, it's not novel, it's been done before, and it's failed every time.
Yeah. We founded our association, the Russian Social Democrat Labor Party, precisely for such a struggle against every religious bamboozling of the workers. This was the purpose. This book is not necessarily just about religion. It's going to go into all of the different ways that this is infiltrated, and it's going to go past Marx. So it's just Marx and Engels are those first few chapters. And now it's going to go to how this spread into schools and how it spread into larger society. But the goal was always, the fundamental goal was always destroy God.
Mhm.
Because when you destroy God, you can create an allegiance to something else, because everyone in this entire world was born to worship.
Mhm.
And the people who say they don't worship anything are sometimes the most fervent, the most violent. A quote was shared with me, and unfortunately I don't have it up here, but it says, even if, and I'm paraphrasing here, but even if 3/4 of the world should perish, that's fine, as long as the remaining 1/4 are communists. That's how they think about things. Let me just, it is the absolute duty of social democrats to make a public statement of their attitude towards religion. And we're starting to see this.
Mhm.
I am watching teachers make public comments about how not every one of their students is Christians. They should easily slipping in some slur or disparaging remark against
Mhm.
Christians
Yeah.
in a so-called religious state, mind you. It is an absolute duty for social democrats to make a public statement of their attitude towards religion. Social democracy bases its whole world outlook on scientific socialism. Yeah, okay. Not to date this, but we just listened or didn't to a COVID trial. The philosophical basis of Marxism, as Marx and Engels repeatedly declared, is dialectical materialism. There you go, Robert. That's the whole goal. Materialism, obsession. In fact, in this, as they're tearing down, destroying churches, killing monks, etc., they are gloating about what a good booty they've received. They're so happy to get that gold and to burn it down. That is their biggest thing. A materialism which is absolutely aesthetic and positively hostile to all religion. Again, so what's that Red Green Alliance about? Religion.
Right.
Oh,
Not
go ahead.
how. What would happen if a teacher was like, "Not all my students are Muslim. Can I share a cartoon of Muhammad?"
Right. Not a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a chance. And in fact, I can tell you what would happen. Our governor would get on and say, "We are not a hateful state." That's, we've already seen it.
Yep.
Religion is the opium of the people. This dictum of Marx is the cornerstone of the whole Marxist outlook on religion. Marxism has always regarded all modern religions and churches and each and every religious organization as instruments of bourgeoisie reaction that serve to defend exploitation and befuddle the working class. That also makes me laugh because so many socialists, working class and socialists, don't fit a lot of today's socialists.
Well, you can hear the arrogance there. We know better than the working class. We know better than they know themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They're it's the same basket of deplorables thing. It's
yes.
They don't why do poor people or why do Black people, why are they voting against their interests?
Right.
Because we understand their interests and we know the right vote for them, but they're not doing it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to be re-educated to agree with us because we know better.
If you're not our pawns, you're not useful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. They want pawns, and we're coming up right at that hour mark, but that is the goal here. So they want you to dismantle. They want you to dismantle your faith and to turn towards them. They want you to believe that they care about your working class, but The thing is, again, everyone's born to worship. We all worship something. Whatever our priority is, that's what we worship. And they demand that your priority is whatever they believe in. And if that changes from day to day, then you better. In fact, I think it's Dostoevsky, but who is it who said that we do whatever the party says, and if the party changes, if they say yes to this today and no to this tomorrow, you know what I'm talking about? That quote. Then
Sounds familiar.
we
I
need
think
to
it's
remember.
I
Go
think
ahead.
it's in this book. I think it was Lenin or Solovsky.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it might be, because I know I've heard this, but that's exactly. It's just you have to know whatever it is, because you could go to jail for saying what was true yesterday, but isn't true today.
No, that's right out of 1984 too.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it's from that. I don't think it's from 1984. I think it's from this book.
Well, he just illustrates that perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a real thing that someone
Right.
was doing and saying.
Right. So what do you want to wrap up? Any thoughts? You know, what's really weird is that this would not, for some reason, it did not show up on Facebook. I've been watching to see, and I'm like, where is it? So, do you have any closing thoughts, you guys, on this one?
So I would just offer that if people are watching and they're a little overwhelmed, because it can be overwhelming, the first 3 chapters are the most important part of this book. And there's much to be had in the later chapters. But if you read nothing else, read 1 through 3. And then I love how you have continued to reiterate that we are made, like we are created to crave and desire a kingdom. And what that kingdom is, I guess the Lord leaves up to us. But if you have not read James K.A. Smith's Desiring the Kingdom, he calls it worship worldview and cultural liturgies. That the liturgy of the faith is ordained by God. Obviously, that's what Christians believe. And that if you don't believe in God, you will create a liturgy for yourself. And in this book, James Smith discusses the liturgy of the stadium, those who create sports teams, and they will create a liturgy, a day of rest around the football game. Those who create it out of the mall, those who create it out of communism, and those who create it out of a sense of self or a self-worship, a self-God. And so there's lots of credence to that, Carrie. I think you did very well in articulating that, and many people have done that. And then I would offer that Nancy Pearcey explores that as well. She's a wonderful author that really digs into those things. And these are not beach reads. Again, this book is not a beach read. You're not going to finish it in 3 hours. It's not an easy lift. It's intellectual, and you're gonna have to eat it like an elephant, one bite at a time, right? But to pick up and start to explore these things, I think is really important out of society today. And I just appreciate you doing this and doing this book study, Carrie. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you could join me today. Robert, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up non-religious, atheist, and so my mind is always, how to speak to that mindset, how to hopefully reach the kind of people that I came from, language that I knew. And I know a lot of times when you use a lot of religious language, religious appeals, that can just come off as, oh, those religious people are saying those religious things. That's just what they do. And so I would just center it on truth. And you mentioned moral relativism relating to pluralism. And, that's something that I'm focused a lot on. And I think we have to get people to just take one step out of moral relativism, nihilism of just saying, well, there's no truth. We need to think that through. If there's no truth, then you need to see how ridiculous the world becomes. and
Right.
how ridiculous any of your desires and claims are. If there's literally no truth and there's no way to agree across division, it just all falls apart.
Mhm.
And so how do we confront the fact that we need truth and we need to believe in truth? That's what I want to push people towards, the people that I'm trying to communicate with more.
I feel that way too. I don't feel, I mean, my goal is always, I like to say, to catch the starfish and to throw the starfish back into into a place of sanity. And while these chapters specifically are deep into religion,
Mhm.
I still think it's important to understand that if you're an atheist who would call yourself a normie and would just be, I don't care about religion, that's fine. But do you care about people being tortured?
Mhm.
Do you care about people being murdered? Because that is always where this leads. And if you don't think that that would happen, you need to think about what happened on September 10th of last year. How many people gloated, absolutely gloated and celebrated. And it looked like that was the moment that I knew this could happen again.
Mhm.
Because if they could find that grave, and they still, I mean, the same thing as a politician recently passed, and the same kind of thing, just gloat, gloat, gloat. And it's when you get to a point where you believe that your victimhood is virtuous, that's dangerous.
Mhm.
So I just want to look at some of the notes that we did get some comments. So it's not really utopian, as it's openly nihilistic or nihilistic, as Rob and the author has said. It's worth noting how free trade was named as a system of exploitation in the manifesto itself. As the United Church is mainly atheist, as I'm told. I mean, I think that's true about. It's interesting that the guy wants to go back to the Presbyterian religion, because from what I understand about Presbyterian, it's always been the quote, most open-minded. That is what Marx's father leaned into. And it's always been the least dogmatic of all the religions. It's very performative on top, but underneath, a lot of movements came out of it, from what I understand. Yeah.
Carrie, I'm not certain that's accurate. Presbyterians are Calvinist, and
Okay.
Calvinists are certainly not open-minded. They have a 5-point system that they believe in,
Yeah.
and then you have Arminianism and Calvinism, and then you kind of have, and
Yeah.
they both have their faults, in my opinion. To all the Calvinists out there, sorry. But I think that when you become dogmatic on either end of the spectrum, but I'm not certain that the Presbyterian tradition is rooted in Calvinism. And I'm pretty certain I'm correct on that. I wouldn't look at my Presbyterian brothers and sisters and say that they are inherently open-minded because they subscribe to the Presbyterian tradition.
Okay, I'm thinking that they're the ones that are they the ones that Tucker Carlson was part of? Isn't he the Presbyterian religion? And I'm thinking, are they the ones that have adopted all of the LGBTQ stuff into the church?
I believe that would be the Methodists.
Well, the Methodists for sure have, but I think the Presbyterians have.
They have done some, but yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't call them the most open, but
Okay. I was talking to a friend who said that her father or her uncle or somebody was a Presbyterian minister a long time ago, when they were extremely open towards LGBTQ decades before everyone else. So, but so I appreciate that, though, because my viewpoint is always, how can I be less wrong more often?
Me too. Me too.
So if I got that wrong, I'm so sorry, but that is, and I think that is what Marx says in this, unless he was Methodist. But I think that he actually, like, his father chose that religion because it was the least pushing strict dogma after leaving being a Jew. Okay. On the subject of ideological subversion in the Black church, back in the day. You know what? I'm going to leave that one because this will go into what happened. It's going to go into Manning Johnson's testimony. So we will be talking about that. Our next one won't be next Saturday because I'm going on vacation to NOLA. So, and when I get back, we'll do the next book club, and that will be chapters 7, 8, and 9. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us. I do not know why it didn't play on the live stream on Facebook apparently, but I'll get that up. And if you guys have channels and you want to share it, please do. So
Yep,
I'll
absolutely.
see you next time. Thank you for joining me.
Awesome. Have a great day, y'all.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.